With the Super Nintendo port of Caveman Ninja covered, let's look into its sequel, Congo's Caper. This is a sequel as it's known in Japan as Fighting Caveman 2, with Fighting Caveman being the first game's name. This game definitely expands on the Super Nintendo port's more traditional platformer take than the arcade original. Story-wise, the game is a prequel, set 300 years before the first Caveman Ninja and starring Congo, an ancestor of Joe and Mac. This game I had to emulate, as I tried to play the Switch Online version, but that had a game-breaking glitch only on that version that still hasn't been fixed as of my writing this on the 11th of January 2024, almost 2 years after it was added to the service people pay for. The opening cutscene shows 2 red gems falling from the sky, and they land on the only 2 monkeys that aren't pink, turning them human. But then a demon shows up, turns the boy back into a monkey, and takes off with the girl. So, what's going on here? Apparently there's actually a backstory about competing gods going on. The dinosaur god Gao really hates the monkey tribe and wants them wiped out, so he sends armies of dinosaurs and cavemen to invade their home, Wookiee Land. But that's when the god of love and peace, Maru, sends the rubies out to power them up. After the demon, Devi Jr. takes off with Conget, Congo gets sent another ruby to get himself started. And we start the first level. Congo does have a similar starting moveset to Joe and Mac. He has a club and can do a somersault when jumping while holding up. The somersault can't actually damage enemies if they're hit during the spin. There's gems to collect for the extra lives at 100 and red eggs to break open for items. One item gets a slot machine at the top of the screen going, but I rarely get any actual results. There are stone blocks in the ground that can be broken by clubbing enemies into them. This particular one opens up a cave to more gems, with large ones granting automatic extra lives. As I go through the lava cave it leads to, I find another ruby and an egg. Getting 3 of these rubies will allow you to power up further, but getting hit once before you have 3 will lose you all of them and you are reduced to the monkey form, which will also require 1 more ruby to become human again. Getting hit as a monkey causes death. With this route taken, I'm already near the end of the stage, taking on pteranodons and this little T-Rex, which demonstrates me being at 2 out of 3 rubies and losing them all from a single hit. I decide to ignore him and finish the level. Stage 2 with the first world and I jump up 2 platforms to get a gem and become human again. There's another one got by cracking a caveman over the head, just once so he needs to sit down, then high jumping off his head. But then I ruin it going for this red egg when I high jump off another and collide with the pteranodon. The egg has another ruby but I'm still 1 down after this. Over a few falling platforms to reach this maze blocked by bricks I need to smack cavemen into. There's 2 rubies in here so I just need 1 more again. Past that is the level exit. Stage 3 now and I'm jumping across treetops. There's floor underneath them for a bit so you can get used to hanging on their branches. Eventually the floor disappears and instead I'm crossing these vines that rapidly grow over this large pit. I finally get 3 cavemen on the slot, which grants an extra life. Across the second pit are 2 eggs I almost get hit trying to reach, only to find that they just have single gems in them. As I cross the third pit, I get pteranodons diving from the top of the screen, but none hit me as I make it to the other side and finish the stage. Stage 4 starts with me entering a cave. I drop down and end up being chased by a T-Rex. I have to quickly get around the walls here and avoid being hit by the cavemen. I get my 3rd ruby here and take on my strongest form, flashing pink and yellow hair. My club is stronger, but the range is still naff, and I have a much faster and higher high jump with the ability to slow my descent. Another benefit is that I now lose only a single ruby when being hit, losing all 3 taking the form from me. Of course I can also refill my lost rubies with any found afterwards. Once I get out of the cave, Devi Jr. shows up and takes control of the T-Rex. It mainly fights by spitting cavemen at me, but simply hitting the cavemen back and into its face will damage it. I can't just stay still and mash though, as cavemen will come in through the other side of the screen instead. Hitting a caveman into another can make them drop another ruby, which when collected at full rubies will grant an extra life instead. Bosses have large life bars in this game, so it takes a while to bring this guy down. Last time with Joe and Mac, the game ended on beating up a T-Rex to go inside its guts and fight a devil. In the sequel, it's the first boss. Stage 5 has a short beginning section where I have to swim through stomach acid and avoid spikes. Are they part of the T-Rex's natural biology? After a bit of that I meet up with Devi Jr. If it seems like I already know what I'm doing, it's because this is my 4th or 5th attempt at this game. One ending with the Switch Online glitch, and the rest through frustration. He'll fly up to one of the corners, then speed around the bottom of the screen to the next while jabbing with his trident. His other attack is to fire a homing fireball and then speed to the next corner, but this time I have the chance to hit him with a somersault. You can also hit him during the trident attack by somersaulting his back, but it has a higher risk of you taking damage too. It honestly feels luck based as to whether or not I'll take damage and I lose a life to him. He also has an attack where he fires a spread of purple orbs. Speaking of luck based, here the majority of my somersaults went through no problem, one even hitting him twice. The safest time to try and hit him being just as he gets off the ledge on the corner before he decides on an attack. It has the same issue I had with Joe and Mac, bosses having way too much health for how simple their fights are. At least in Joe and Mac you had that health bar. Here most of the time it's going to be 2-hit deaths. It just gets old. I gained 2 lives, I've saved Congette, and Congo flashes his heart at her. She's back with the other monkeys while Congo is away, and David Jr. shows up again to just kidnap her again. Plus there's his 4 minions like an actual caveman ninja and a nerd. I now have a stage select screen to choose which of these henchmen I'm going after first. I'll start with the Valley World since it's first in the selection. Stage 1 is a simple moving platform stage, as in there is nothing to talk about with this stage. I do get myself back to human with a single ruby at least. Stage 2 has me going into another cave and dropping down in front of a giant prehistoric bowling ball. As it chases me, I stop to break this egg for a second ruby and get flattened in seconds, which is an instant kill. Next time I get it without getting crushed and keep running. What would probably have helped me with this level would have been if I knew there was a run function with the shoulder buttons, but since all 4 face buttons were either jump or stick swing, I just assumed those were my only options. But for a while I can't stop dying to the cavemen, usually while going uphill. But I do make it, avoiding the cavemen uphill and crossing the lava pits without being burned. In the end I have to crouch in this little gap to let the ball roll over me and run through the wall so I can reach the level exit. I even built up 2 rubies without getting hit. Stage 3 introduces large cavemen into the mix, and not far in I get my 3rd ruby and power up again. Past it is a series of platforms that are only visible while you are within a certain range of them. I think I'm very clever and try to hover over them, but a Pteranodon knocks me out of the sky. Luckily my post damage invincibility saves me from the spikes, so I decide to do the rest properly. But then I get hit by another Pteranodon and my post damage invincibility saves me from more spikes just long enough for me to jump to the exit. Stage 4 has me enter this temple. We're in the ninja boss's lair now, as even the regular enemies are ninjas. To start with, there's a series of bars I can cling to and climb up. It's a bit tough to be precise here when the powered up form launches me miles into the sky. It results in me losing my last ruby trying to avoid this saw at the top. And then when I'm trying to climb back up to the next corridor, a ninja takes my humanity too. Down the corridor, jump up this wall and barely get to react when I discover more saws and die. Next time it takes a little jump to advance the screen enough so I can see them. Then comes another long corridor avoiding spiked balls and swatting ninjas before they give me 4 slots in a row, none of them getting me anything. But I do get another ruby, then break through this wall to fall down this gap to find 2 more and power up again. Drop down to the bottom and you are having a fucking laugh with that health bar. Well, it's the ninja boss. He'll jump or teleport around the corners of the screen, stopping to throw a few shuriken. That's it. Something to keep in mind is that by holding up you can swing your club above yourself, which can just reach through these platforms. What surprised me is that I actually beat this guy first time, though it did require the loss of all my rubies and being reduced to a monkey. More monkeys roll in for a big group arse flash to celebrate their dominance of this territory. Next in stage select order is the water world. Stage 1, I drop down into the water for a bit of swimming. The water level is constantly rising and lowering, which is important when there's a spiked floor I need to swim over. There are the odd gaps in the spikes to when the water lowers, but I make it to the end. I even get this ruby at the end using a Pteranodon as a platform. There's another back in the water, but they get taken from me by this prick fish while I was trying to make this jump. Then I die right in front of the level exit when I see a pit at the end and assume I can swim down it to find some items. I get it next time. Stage 2. First there are 3 choices of hole to swim down, but only the middle leads somewhere. The right one does have a ruby though. Swim down and across a spiked floor, then up to get another ruby. Another spiked floor is next as the water lowers, but I just stand on this geyser so it's fine. Until the game just decides I touched this spike even though I didn't fucking move. Same thing again, kills me. Next time I get to this part I stay at the top of the water and desperately mash jump to get through it faster, finding an extra life on the way. Then I drop down when I reach the wall and the level is done. Stage 3 is our first auto-scroller. The water level is rising and lowering in this thunderstorm while I need to avoid sea mines. Nothing to say about it really, just a basic avoid the shit level. I take 1 hit but make it to the end first try. Then stage 4 starts me on a pirate ship. This one is another auto-scroller. There's this weird fake out where you go forward for a bit, then the camera starts moving back to the left and it turns out you have to swim under the ship instead. More mines to dodge along with fish and spikes on the ship's underside. I die first time going for a ruby when a single collision with a ceiling hits me twice. I get past it next time and end up climbing onto the back of the ship. But just to mess me about, the camera then moves back towards the water again. It doesn't provide any sort of challenge, it just drags the level on further. I don't see the point when there's only one enemy between here and the boss anyway. The boss is a pirate with a grappling hook arm. He'll swing around on his hook throwing out 4 mines at once, and when he gets up on the platform he'll shoot the hook out, which kills me first time. I just have a really hard time dodging this guy at first, but when I pay attention to his movements, it's not too bad. I just have to not stay up in his face so often. Even the mines move slow enough it's easy to get past them. Those are the only attacks he has though, so that health bar is not justified. He goes down and we moon the boat as well. 2 choices left now, and next in line is the Volcano World. Stage 1 has me run down this slope picking up gems, then running back up to the top and taking these moving platforms, though it takes several attempts before I make it fully across. It leads to a little maze of these platforms filled with moving sea mines, but you can just jump on top and easily walk over all of it. When I reach the end and drop down a little, I find a red egg and the slot machine item gives me 3 monkeys, which is 3 lives. A few more slopes across with these new pteranodons with jets built in before I reach the exit. Stage 2 has me dropped into an auto-scroller by Poochie, Congo's baby pteranodon friend who carries you to the bonus stages, all of which to this point I've missed. And right away I run into lava and die. There is very little to say about this. There's like one enemy at the start and lava pillars rising, but otherwise the scrolling is kind of slow, so it's easy to reach the end. Stage 3 introduces cavemen driving cars, but I decide not to engage with them and break open these rocks so that I can travel underneath them safely. It drops me into a cave where I have several platforms of breakable blocks over a pit to cross, bearing in mind that killing a caveman will send him flying into those bricks, break them, and leave me with less room to cross with. It ends with me breaking one brick that prevents me from crossing this gap. Thankfully there's still solid ground below that, but I miss this moving platform and fall into lava. Next time I make it across those block platforms and find Poochie for my first bonus stage in this playthrough. He spawns me in front of a statue of Joe, who spawns gems when I hit it. So I just stand there hitting the statue until I get up to 20 lives. That's when I get bored and drop down to finish the stage, but I still lose my rubies on the way down. I'm dropped off on a series of platforms above lava, which ends up being a straightforward run to the exit for me. Stage 4, and I'm suddenly back in grasslands with 3 levels of ground and groups of pteranodon jets coming for me. It's only a short section with a single ruby on the way to the Nerd Caveman. He goes off and in comes his wooden dinosaur robot. It's got a boxing glove in its stomach, but otherwise mainly attacks by shedding parts around the screen. I die twice fighting it, but on my 3rd attempt, I accidentally discover this magical spot where if I stand there, it just lets me kill it. It goes in with its head and I hit it for 2 units of health, repeat until dead. But that's not the end, as the stage continues, letting me have another ruby to make up for the one I lost. More of the same until I enter this cave and face the real boss, who thankfully only has half the usual boss health. It's the nerd bouncing around in his little pod with the bottom half made of spiky rocks. He kills me once. He's not actually that tough. The moving around is all he can do, so as long as you're patient and avoid everything, he's probably the easiest boss after that robot I just did. That just leaves the castle world and the reason I couldn't finish this game on the Switch Online. Killing cavemen in this level results in ghosts that chase you down. But there's a light you can hit to deal with them, but it respawns for living cavemen. On the Switch, hitting the light somehow resets the game and it still isn't fixed. But since I've got fed up playing these castle levels on all the other failed playthroughs, I already know to avoid killing them. After dodging a few fireballs, I run into Poochie again for a bonus stage. It's an auto-scroller where I have to pick a floor and collect gems while dealing with the odd caveman. I get hit during this, but build myself back up to 2 rubies by the end, plus an extra life. Not that it matters, as I lose them all right away when I get back to the level to a fireball. There's a light that deals with ghosts, just as I kill myself launching from one caveman's head into the side of another. Past them is jumping across spikes with these tiny platforms and avoiding more fireballs, then the end of the stage. Stage 2 starts with me jumping across more of those narrow platforms. Following that is a very unremarkable fire dodging segment before the end. I do get to show off the caveman ghost though as I take a couple out near the end. And now for stage 3. I enter a cave where I have no choice but to kill the cavemen and spawn their ghosts. At least the light to get rid of them is right there, though that does mean respawning them alive. One of the respawned hits me on the way out, just as I break these bricks keeping me from 3 more rubies. Moving on, I reach some lava and get myself killed accidentally setting off the high jump and hitting the ceiling, making me fall in. Next time I finally get my powered up form once again. That form allows me to safely hover over the lava and reach the end, and thank God for it as there was one jump in that tunnel that I could just not make without it and led to at least 2 abandoned playthroughs. Maybe if I knew about the run button back then, that might have worked. That just leaves stage 4, where I enter the castle the world is named for. To start with, we've got fireballs that travel around the edges of the platforms, with 2 rubies to replace the ones I lost in the last stage at the top. Then a hallway of jumping over spikes, followed by avoiding sea mines as I go up. Then more spike and little flame avoiding until I fall down a hole into another spike avoiding hallway. After that and a bit more climbing, I have to take out a few bats on the way to the boss. 8 bats circle around me. I give them a few hits and they form into the vampire boss who drops dead. That's it. The level of power between the power up and not powered up is ridiculous. After the level is done, we see Poochie carry Congo off to the T-Rex from the first world and feed him to it. Time for the final world. The T-Rex's guts got a lot more messed up while I was away. There's boulders rolling around here and everything. Once I get out of this cramped tunnel, I start doing super high jumps and trying to hover over everything. It bites me in the ass when I land on these spikes and lose my power up just before reaching the end. Stage 2 of the final world, and I now have crushing spiked ceilings to worry about. Thankfully the stage starts with giving me 4 rubies up front to get powered up again. Doesn't stop me getting crushed when I have to run across the top of this moving ceiling though. But since you restart on death in human form, that 4th ruby they give you is a free extra life, giving me essentially unlimited retries of this part. This is where I mess around and discover the ability to sprint with the shoulder buttons. At the end of the game is better than never finding out at all, I suppose. But then they pull a dick move and trick me into thinking I need to run over the top of the next one, resulting in getting crushed at a dead end. Then next time I learn that it's not even the getting crushed that's an instant kill, just touching the spike will do it. A couple more tries and I get past it, leading to some slopes down to the exit. Stage 3 has me being followed by an advancing spiked wall. Thankfully the super sprint given to me by this power up trivialises it and I make a dash right for the exit. Final stage now, and it starts with 3 more rubies to get you powered up for the final boss. It's Devi Jr., with the exact same moveset he had as the first boss, but now he stands in the middle of the arena. I do get careless and let myself lose the power up as I clobber him. I even learn that I can hit those hurling fireballs away, which is easier than dodging them. I take him down and relax. But you can see that the game's conquered text hasn't appeared yet. Something I should have seen coming, there's still one more boss. The dinosaur god Gao appears and fireballs Devi Jr. away. I shouldn't have been so cocky as I get myself killed in seconds. Next time I stand in whacking range of him, having kept my power up, and keep whacking him. The extra damage from the power up winning me the damage race. I relax once again. I should really stop doing that. It turns out Gao has a second form where he gets a little bit bigger. I hit him once while he flies around throwing fireballs and kill myself jumping into his face. On the way back next time, the slot item gets me 3 pooches, sending me to a bonus stage where I have to choose the correct hole to drop through. Luckily the super jump gets me out of the one I chose and lets me get a better one. I get an extra life, but can't be arsed to farm gems from the Joe statue again. I once again defeat the boss I last assumed was final without being hit. His other attack is sending out 8 fireballs across the screen and is a pain to dodge. He can also breathe 3 spreads of 4 fireballs. I take about 2/3 of his health this time before I die. I've exhausted all my talking points with this boss already. Here's the victory. Conget is saved and we get the credits with them and Poochie posing for the end screen. You know those moments where you watch or play something and when you're done you think, that was alright I suppose, and then the very next time you think about it you realise, actually I didn't like it. That was Congo's caper for me. It's not awful to me, just not something I enjoyed. I didn't like Congo's tiny stick, I didn't like the control of his high jump, really I just didn't like how he felt to control. Nor did I enjoy the power up system that much. It felt like the true Congo's caper experience was to get 2 or 3 rubies, then jump into a previously off-screen enemy and lose it. I didn't like the bosses having no middle ground with their health. It was either show up fully powered up and they're total pushovers, or get grazed by an enemy once in the level and you instead feel yourself age as the fight drags on. With the 2 different Caveman Ninja versions I've played and this, that's 3 Joe and Mac games, and this one is my least favourite of the 3. Although I can for certain say that it's far from my least favourite Joe and Mac of the games included on my checklist at the end. There's one I've tried to record a playthrough of a few times but not been able to stomach it for long. But for this game, since it was just a game I didn't gel with rather than one I actively disliked, it'll get ranked near the top of the games I didn't like area of the list. Hell, it was probably harder to get through writing this script than it was to play the thing because I found the game so uninteresting to watch back through. There was a worry for a second that of everything that could have put a stop to this channel, it would end up being endless procrastination with writing this video.